Hi, welcome, and thank you very much for joining us today. We're really excited to have you all here. We decided to organize this webinar to interact with you today, introduce you to the AMBOSS platform, show you its most important features, and answer all the questions that you might have. Stay tuned until the end of this webinar, as we will be sharing with you a code that gives you access for 2 weeks for free of AMBOSS. So my name is Omar. I'm one of the physicians working with the communications team, and on my left is...
I'm Cara, and I'm a radiation therapist originally from New Zealand, and I'm working with AMBOSS to help students like you get the most out of the AMBOSS platform.
Would you like to tell us a bit more about AMBOSS?
Sure. Okay, so AMBOSS is a learning platform designed for medical students studying towards their exams. And it was initially designed in 2011 by some German doctors who had just finished up their final board exams, and they just thought there has to be a better way of studying. So they decided to take a year off from their studies and try it out, create something that maybe students could use, and it ended up being really successful. So now 95% of students in Germany studying for their final board exams use AMBOSS. And then after a while, these students started asking, we want an English platform. So just over 2 years ago, the English AMBOSS was born and created from scratch alongside USMLE guidelines. And that's where we are today.
Cool. That is truly inspiring. So for today's webinar, we will start by showing you through the library first, the question bank, and then the analysis. And then we will leave you also some time to ask any questions that you might want, which is, by the way, on the right side of the page that you're at right now. Cara, would you like us to start with the library?
Sure.
Do you want to do that?
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so when you first log into the AMBOSS platform, this is what you'll see. So you can find us at amboss.com if you haven't seen us before. And now what you can see here is our dashboard. So you'll see a list here of all the recent question bank sessions that we have done. And then you'll also see a menu on this left-hand side. So AMBOSS is made up of 3 main components that all work together to provide an integrated and synchronized learning experience. So you'll see the library, and that is a collection of clinical subjects that you can explore. And then we have our Qbank, which is our Qbank is filled with all the questions that we have. And then the analytics tool. All right, so we're going to start off by diving into the library, and I'll show you a little bit more about the clinical subjects that you can find in there, but also all the tools that you can utilize in the library. Okay, so we're going to click on that library icon. Okay, so we have a menu down here. When we click on clinical knowledge, you'll see a whole range of different subjects that you can dive into. Or you might want to just straight away search for a topic that you're interested in. So, Omar, what was one of the most important subjects that you had to study when you were studying medicine?
Well, in Morocco, tuberculosis is quite endemic, so I would say probably pneumology was the most important.
All right, so why don't we, something to do with pneumology. All right, maybe put in pneumonia for me.
Pneumonia, all right.
Okay, so here we can see a list of learning cards. Now, learning cards are like chapters or sections in our knowledge library that you can go into. So the first one comes up with pneumonia. So we're going to click it. And first of all, you'll see a whole list of the different sections within this learning card related to pneumonia. So you'll have a whole lot of things you can explore: clinical features, diagnostics, treatment. Now, you can start off here and dive into each chapter, or you can just select this little drop down up here or click the space bar, and then we see all those sections opened up. Now, this is quite a lot of information to begin with, and we know that sometimes this is a little bit much, especially if you're short on time and you just need to know exactly the information that you need right now if you're prepping for an exam. So we have a really cool feature here that's called high yield mode, and that you can just activate. We're going to click that, and that condenses the information down just to the really important information that you need for studying for USMLE exam prep. So What that means, it's all our high yield information you can go through. If you're short on time, you can just condense the studying to the most important info. All right. From there, you can even target your studying a little bit more by activating our highlighter tool. And that's another tool right up here on that right-hand side. And you can just click that. And it highlights the most important information in yellow. And the brighter the yellow, the more likely that information is to come up on USMLE exams that you might be studying for. So those are two really neat ways you can try and target your studies, but there also are a lot of other tools that you can utilize in the learning card to help supplement your study. So I'm going to just turn off those tools for now. We'll show everything. All right, there's also a couple of other things here. So you can see these little dotted lines. When we hover over those words with dotted lines, you get a definition that explains a little bit more about that term. But also we have some other things here too. So if we scroll down a little bit, I'm going to hover over this dotted one, which says Streptococcus, and we can see we've actually got a blue button. And what that means is it takes us into the learning card related to that topic. So you might be studying pneumonia and then you see Streptococcus and you think, actually, I want to know a little bit more about that. And then you can dive into that learning card. So really you can go as deep into the subject as you want.
So it's basically like Wikipedia.
It's like
a
way more reliable, cooler version of Wikipedia that you can do a lot more with. But yeah, that's a good way of putting it, really. And we have had students who have said that. Okay, there's some other things we can do. One of the things that always catches my eye, because I love this function, is the Your Notes button. So if you click this, you might have a couple of things that you really want to think about. So you might say, talk about this abstract with my professor. I want to know a little bit more about this. Or you might have some additional notes that you have from another resource, or you might even open this up during a lecture when they're talking about pneumonia and type a few other things in. So that's a really cool tool that we have there. We can save that and we can come back to it later. Okay, and there's also some other tools in here that you can utilize. So I'm going to show you some of the media that comes in with our learning cards that you can use to help you learn this topic. So we have a whole range of media available to you. We've got videos, we've got diagnostic imaging, we've got quizzes. And we can see some of these here in our learning card. So I'm going to scroll down. Ooh, this looks good. All right, we've got a microscope here. Now, this is one of my favorite features in AMBOSS. I don't know about you, Omar, but I love this function. And this is called our Smart Zoom. So I'm going to click into it. And here we have a typical kind of histology slide, but I'm going to activate the Smart Zoom feature. And basically, what I think about this is that it's like the best microscope you can possibly have, except you're not looking through that really cloudy lens that you're normally looking through when you're in a lab. So, all right, we're going to come in a little bit further here. And you'll see that all the important features have been highlighted, and we can dive right in and see things really close up and understand what we're looking at. We can click on this feature here and we're immediately explained what exactly we are looking at. That's really helpful if you're wanting to look a little bit more at histology. Okay, and then we're going to come out of that and we've got a few more tools that we can look at. So we're going to scroll down and here are all our sections in this learning card, but you'll see we've got a video here. This is on a physical examination, so we could go into that. But we could also see, again, another one of my favorite features. You've chosen a good learning card for me, Omar.
This is my favorite feature as well, actually.
Okay, cool. All right, well, I'm going to click into this image. Now, we know that this looks like a CT scan, but what exactly are we looking at? And this is always the kind of thing that makes you tremble with fear when you're in a clinic and a consultant comes up to you and says, what are you looking at? And sometimes it's really hard to tell what you're looking at. And I think there's textbooks that are available to show us these things, but textbooks are really difficult to handle. You don't want to flick through all the pages to know what you're looking at. So, Omar, what do you think's going on here?
There's obviously some probably like a cyst here or an abscess, I would say, around here as well. What do you think?
Well, I would agree. I think there's also something going on down here. I'm not too sure.
Right.
All right, we'll activate the overlays. Now, the overlays are one of the coolest features in AMBOSS. We activate that, and it shows us exactly what we should be looking at, what are the abnormalities, but it also gives us a little caption to show us exactly what that abnormality is. And it doesn't really just end there. We also have a whole other range of diagnostic imaging that you can access. So you can see here we have a huge amount of images, including chest x-rays, which we know are always incredibly hard to read. So we can activate the overlay here, and you can see a really helpful overlay to show us exactly what we are looking at, then switch it off, try and see it ourselves, switch it back on again. It's a pretty cool tool. And then I think we've got some other good things in here. All right, we've also got a flowchart, and this is a really neat example, and I know heaps of students really love these because it's so helpful if you're a visual learner and you want to see kind of like the flow of how things work. And this one is the treatment of pneumonia. So again, these are just some things that you can access in our learning cards that should help your learning, but we've got lots of other things as well. So it's a really cool idea to jump into the library and see what else you can find. Okay, so that's a basic overview, I suppose, of our library, and I think maybe I would like to see a little bit more of the Qbank.
Yeah, sure. All right, so when it comes to the question bank, we have over 2,000 questions. All our questions are clinical-based questions and multiple choice questions. So as you can see here, you have the Qbank. You can create a session. You can create a normal session as you wish, like for example, if you're studying for medicine, or what is actually really great about AMBOSS is that you can customize your session the way you want. So for instance, if you want to study by symptom, you can just choose a specific symptom like chest pain, or you can study by organ, or you can customize your session even more. So you can choose some specific learning card, some specific clinical subject, as you can see here, some specific symptoms, and so on and so forth. All right, so we'll choose one of the symptoms here to try it out. Would you like to choose one for me?
What is a frustrating symptom? What about nausea?
Yeah, sure. All right. All right. So as you can see, I chose nausea here. As you can see, you could also adjust the difficulty level. You can choose, for instance, questions with only images. That's what I will do. And we'll start the session right away. All right. So as you can see, we have our question here that you can read through. You can also have the lab values here, as that is probably very useful. So the way we actually do our questions is that usually when you read through the question, you might either know what the right answer is, which is great in that case, but sometimes you struggle a bit more with knowing what the right answer is. And if that is the case, this is where AMBOSS plays a huge role. We try to help you and guide you to get to the right answer by yourself, without necessarily telling you what the right answer is. So for instance, if you read through that question and you're not quite sure what the right answer is, what you can do is you have this tool here. There is a highlighting tool that you can turn on, and in that case it will highlight to you the most important information that you need to keep in mind for this question. That basically means everything else is just a distraction. These are the information that you need to focus more on to get to the right answer. You also have a tip from our doctors here, which is basically just an additional information that should guide you to the right answer. And then you can start answering. So for instance, you can rule out some options, then you can choose also some options. And so when you answer wrong, there are two things that happen here. First, we're still not showing you what the right answer is. And second, we're actually explaining you why this is a wrong answer. So you get another shot to get to the right answer. I didn't show you, but you also have images here with the overlay. So you can also use them for the question to get to the right answer, and so on and so forth. So you can keep on answering, or you could also just show the right answer, which in that case will be this one. And as you can see, all the options have explanations. All right, so let's say now you read through that question, that is great, but you want to know a bit more about it. So when it comes to this right answer, as you can see here, there is this corresponding learning card that you can open. And in that case, it will open the learning card on the right side. So you basically have the library on the right side, the question bank on the left side. So you can keep on answering questions while still studying at the same time.
This is, I think, one of the coolest features, I think, yeah, because it's so cool that you can have both the Qbank and the library up at the same time.
Yeah, and everything is basically connected.
Yeah.
And that's really great. Something that is also really great in that case is that we all know that medical students don't necessarily have a lot of time, and we all went through that. And there's just a huge, like, a lot of information that you need to go through as a medical student. So what we're trying to do at AMBOSS is that we're trying to save you some time. So for instance, if you look through this, you could see there are some parts that are highlighted in green. So these are actually the information that are related to this specific question. So for instance, if you just wanted to know a bit more about this answer, you don't have to read the entire learning card. You can just scroll down to the green highlighted parts, and these are the information that you should know about this question. Of course, if you do have time, you can also read the entire learning card, but we're just basically trying to save you some time, especially if you're just doing a lot of questions before an exam. I think Cara already showed you all the other tools that are related to the learning cards, as you can see here. So you also have the high yield mode and so on and so forth. And then as soon, you can also jump to other learning cards. So you can search for pneumonia, for instance. Right. You can choose from some pneumonia or tuberculosis or any, basically any learning card that you wish. So you can keep on studying at the same time. And then as soon as you're done, you can just basically move on to a next question. There is one last tool I wanted to show you that is related to both learning cards, like the library and the question bank. So if I go back to this specific learning card that I was at, which is this one, I turn off the high yield mode. So there is this learning radar tool, which in that case, if I turn it on, it will highlight the topics that require further study from me based on incorrectly answered questions. So for instance, if I turn it on now, as you can see, there are some parts now that are highlighted in red here. So this basically means that it reminds me that last time I tried to answer a question, I answered this information wrong. So here it basically just tells me, look, you need to focus on this information because you're clearly lacking that information. So now you need to focus more on this. And next time you go back to that question or any other question related to this information, and if you answer it right, then it will go back to black. So this really helps you to focus on the topics that require further study from you. And this is really cool, I believe. All right, I think that's mainly it for the most important features that we wanted to show you regarding the question bank. And now I would like to also show you the third part of AMBOSS, which is the analysis tool. So since the very first day you create your account, we basically keep your study performance. And if you click here through the study summary, you can see you have like a summary of all of your performance. And you can also see your overall results.
You haven't been doing very well.
Yeah, well, I have to say this is a test account, but yeah,
That's
please don't judge me. Right. Anyway, so you can see there is your initial answer profile, there is your latest answer profile, and this is really great to basically see your performance and how well you've been doing with answering questions. Also, based on the study objective that you set for yourself, which is in that case, for instance, pediatrics, and based on what you've been studying and the questions that you've been answering to, we give you recommendations on the topics that you need to focus more on. So for instance, here, based on my sessions and the learning cards that I've been studying, it basically tells me that I should focus 19% of my time on asthma, because this is basically a topic that requires further study from me, and so on and so forth. So this really helps you to focus your studies on the topics that you lack some information on. It helps you to kind of guide that.
And sometimes I think when there's so much that you have to study, it's really hard to know exactly what subjects amongst all of them that you should be focusing on. So this is a really great tool to help save time and know exactly what you got to do straight away.
Yeah, I agree. All right, that's basically it. This is all the most important features that we wanted to show you of AMBOSS. Do you want to add something?
There may be more things that you want to know about, and that's why we would like to be here to answer any questions that you might have. If you want to, you can use that chat tool, which was on the right side of your screen right now, and go ahead and ask us a question. We've got a handy helper here who'll let us know if we've got any questions. But in the meantime, while you're thinking of those questions, we will give you the code that will give you 2 weeks of access, because we really appreciate that you came to come have a look at what AMBOSS can offer you in your studies. And you'll see the code here on your screen. And what you can do is enter that into your account, and I'll show you how to do that right now. So what you do is you go over to the left side of your screen and click Account, and then we click Redeem Code. Then with the code that I just gave you, you enter it into this box here, and then click Activate Code, and the 2 weeks will be added to your account. If you have access already, that's totally okay. What will happen is that 2 weeks is just added to the end of your current access. Okay.
Hi. I can see that we already have one question.
Okay.
So we have Mohammed who asked us, are there any video tutorials? Because nowadays students want video lectures or tutorial on questions explaining tricky points, reinforcing very important concepts. Are there any video lectures on the platform?
Absolutely. We have a really awesome new feature, which is actually really, we're still working on it all the time, but it's a great place to start. And you can see them. It's called our Chalk Talk episodes. And if you click on Library on the left-hand side and Chalk Talk, you can see a whole range of video lectures that we have that are targeted to very specific clinical subjects. So you can have a look at the ones that we have at the moment. There's a whole lot of different things that you can see in those video lectures, but also we would love to hear what kind of subjects you would like to learn more about as well. But there are a range of other tools too, not just the video lectures that you can see. So there are, that's a hard one to say, isn't it? Mnemonics. Yeah. Very difficult. We have got those in a number of learning cards. I'm trying to, we could probably send you a few examples of those. If you jot down your email address, we'll happily send those to you. But yeah, we've got a range of different tools that you can use to help remember certain things about particular topics. And the tables are another popular one as well. So for subjects that you really need in table format, you can access those in different learning cards. But if you have any particular subjects that you want to know a bit more about, we're happy to help out with that too.
Cool. There is also another question, if we can use AMBOSS offline. And for that, yes, absolutely. So you could definitely download the app. So you have 2 apps, one for the library and one for the question bank, and you could definitely use them offline, which is very useful, especially if you're at the clinic and you don't have Wi-Fi and then you want to check some information or do some questions while riding a bus. That's always very useful to have.
Yeah. We've got quite a lot of comments. This is very exciting. Okay, how good AMBOSS is? Is that a question? Okay, all right. Well, we always want to...
I think it's like a continuation of the comment.
I see. Awesome. Oh, that's great. We love that. That's really nice feedback. I really love the histology slides in the Zoom as well, so it's really cool to hear that you like that as well. It's one of my favorite features. Are we planning on adding flashcards? That's a really great question, and it's one that we get a lot. We know that there are resources out there like Anki that do have flashcards. All I can say is that it is something that we're thinking about. We've had a lot of requests for it. If you do really want flashcards, we actually have a feedback forum, and I kind of like this because you could actually get your friends to upvote your suggestions. So what you can do is you can click the ideas and feedback button at the very bottom, and when you follow that through, you can just type in an idea that you have. I think there already is one there for flashcards, and then you can upvote it or get your friends to upvote it as well. And I'll just tell you now, the more upvotes it has, the more likely we are to implement it in the platform. Mm-hmm. So go there now and do it if you want flashcards. All right. Do we have any other comments there?
I think this is all. Yeah, I think cool. This is everything. Yeah. All the questions that we have so far.
Yeah, but like we said, if you do, I mean, these sorts of things are always difficult. We can't cover everything. There are so many other things in AMBOSS, and we're always happy to take 5 minutes to explain them to you, whether that's through email or if you want another call with us, that's totally okay too. So just send us an email. We'd love to hear from you, and we'd love your feedback as well. Yeah. We love hearing what students think.
Definitely. Yeah. Thank you very much for being with us today. Please send us your feedback. As Cara said, we would love to just improve that and get as much in touch with you as possible. You have our email addresses, so feel free to send us any more questions that you have or any feedback. Thank you very much for being with us today. It was truly a pleasure, and we hope to get to talk with you again soon.
Cool. Bye, everyone.
Bye.